You know, AI is just exploding, right? It's changing literally everything about our world. But there's this huge problem hiding in plain sight, a problem that could bring the entire AI revolution grinding to a halt. And the solution? Well, it might not come from silicon at all, but from living, breathing human brain cells.
So 10 megawatts. That number, that's what blows the whole thing wide open. It's the best guess for how much power a traditional silicon computer would need to even come close to what a single human brain can do. I mean, that's just an insane amount of energy.
Okay, let's really put that into perspective. While a silicon-based AI needs basically its own power plant to run, your brain, with all its 86 billion neurons, is just cruising along on about 20 watts of power. Yeah, that's less than a dim light bulb. This incredible difference is what people are calling the energy ceiling, and it's a fundamental wall standing in the way of truly advanced AI.
So, here's what we're going to get into today. We'll start with this energy crisis AI is facing. Then we'll look at the wild solution of using living computers. We'll even break down how you actually program a brain. After that, we'll check if those amazing efficiency claims are for real. And finally, we're going to have to tackle the huge ethical questions this stuff brings up.
All right, let's dive right in. See, the amount of energy these AI models are eating up isn't just a big electricity bill. It's like hitting a fundamental physical limit. The current plan of just building bigger and bigger data centers, well, it's just not going to work for much longer. It's getting way too expensive, and it's not great for the planet either.
And hey, this isn't just some theory. A Swiss company called FinalSpark ran face-first into this problem. The founders spent 5 years trying to simulate neurons on a computer, and they just hit a brick wall. The cost to power and cool the system was just out of this world. And that very expensive failure gave them a pretty radical idea. They basically said, okay, if faking neurons on a computer is way too expensive, why don't we just use the real thing? And that's when they pivoted hard away from digital code and toward this brand new frontier, wetware computing.
So what on earth is wetware? Honestly, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. The idea is to swap out silicon chips for living, functional neural networks. And in this case, we're talking about tiny lab-grown clumps of human brain cells, called organoids, to do the number crunching.
So why would you even do this? Well, FinalSpark claims there are 3 huge upsides, all stolen from nature's playbook. First, it's evolutionary. The brain cells organize themselves and learn on their own. Second, it's ridiculously energy efficient because it runs on chemistry, not brute force electricity. And third, it can scale up just by growing, which is a whole lot different from building a complex GPU factory.
Okay, this is the part that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie. How do you actually build and program a living computer? Well, it's a very real process, and it all happens one step at a time.
It all starts with stem cells, which originally come from donated human skin cells. Then, using a kind of chemical recipe, scientists guide these cells to become neurons and grow into tiny 3D balls called organoids. These mini-brains are then put on a chip covered in microelectrodes. That chip is the interface. It sends little electrical zaps in as data, and then it listens for the electrical chatter from the neurons as the output.
And I want to be clear, this isn't just some biology experiment in a petri dish. No, this is a highly controlled piece of engineering. They can fine-tune everything: the shape of the electrical pulse, how strong it is, how precisely they record the output. That precision is everything, because you have to get good data without, damaging the living tissue.
Now, FinalSpark is making a claim about energy savings that is absolutely jaw-dropping. But you know how it is with any game-changing tech? We got to pop the hood and take a closer look at the numbers to see what's really going on.
And there it is, the big, flashy number. The claim is that wetware could be anywhere from 1 million to maybe even 1 billion times more energy efficient than silicon. And the logic makes sense, right? Super efficient biological chemistry versus just blasting electricity through wires.
But, and this is a huge but, there's a catch. These organoids are alive. You can't just leave them out on a desk. They need a complex 24/7 life support system just to stay alive. And guess what? That life support system needs power.
And this slide really gets to the heart of it. You can't just compare the little organoid to a GPU. That's not a fair fight. You have to compare the whole system. For the wetware, that means the organoid plus its life support, the pumps, the heaters, everything. For silicon, it's the GPU plus its massive cooling system. For wetware to actually win, its life support has to be way, way more efficient than silicon's cooling.
As amazing as all this tech is, the engineering challenges might not even be the hardest part, because now we're walking into a minefield of ethical and legal questions that, frankly, we have no idea how to answer.
Let's just start with the biggest, most unsettling question of all. If you build a system out of living human brain cells and you design it to learn and process information, could it at some point wake up? Could it develop some form of awareness or sentience?
Now, for the record, scientists today say no, these tiny organoids are not conscious. But the risk is there, and it gets bigger with every new breakthrough. And that opens up a whole can of worms. Could it suffer? What about the person who donated the skin cells years ago? Did they consent to this? And if one of these biocomputers has a world-changing idea, who owns it? What even is this thing in the eyes of the law? The really wild part is that right now, there are no rules for this stuff. It exists in a complete legal gray zone. If we decide to regulate it like human tissue, it gets buried in medical bureaucracy. But if we just call it software, we might be ignoring some really profound moral issues. And how we make that choice is going to define the future of this entire field. So, look where we ended up. We started with a technical problem. AI uses way too much electricity. But the search for a solution has led us somewhere much, much deeper. It's forcing us to ask fundamental questions about consciousness, about what it means to be a person, about identity. And it leaves us with one last big question. To solve AI's energy crisis, do we first have to completely redefine what life itself means?